The following is a presentation of the ILR School at Cornell University. ILR, advancing the world of work.
I want to thank the exceptional staff, actually a team of 11 people in ILR from various offices who helped put this together. It's a huge undertaking. We really appreciate all of their efforts in creating this great celebration for everyone to enjoy. We're here to celebrate ILR's excellence in a few ILRs. You might have heard from the relentless messages that the Cornell is going through 150th anniversary right now as well. This year, ILR is celebrating its 70th anniversary in November of advancing the world of work. The first ILR class convened in November of 1945. As with most anniversaries, it's a great time to reflect on the past, take stock of the present, and look ahead to the future. Tonight, there are a couple of people I want to highlight in the room. There are many I'd love to highlight, but I'm just going to recognize two right now and then one other in a minute. First is Lois Gray. Lois is the Jean McKelvey Ellis Grant Professor Emerita in ILR. And she started in ILR. I asked her if it was okay to say this. She started in ILR. She's right there. ILR started... So here's a fact. ILR started in 1945. Lois started working for ILR in 1946. It's amazing. I also want to acknowledge, and she's still there. She's still working in the ILR office. Go down on 34th Street. She'll be in the office. I also want to acknowledge Jerry Alpern, who's right here in front of us at the front table. As many of you, as you know, Jerry's name's associated with one of these awards, and Jerry was in ILR's very first class. ILR is a wonderful place. It's a family of alumni, students, staff, faculty, and other friends. It's a great place due to the dedication and hard work of our staff, faculty, students, alumni, and many others. There's one person, though, that I'd like to recognize since his work over the last 10 years has been truly transformational. I have to admit, I was a bit intimidated coming into this role after Harry, listening to how great Harry is, what a fantastic dean he's been, how his leadership's helped the school, blah, blah, blah. All kidding aside, the school is just in a remarkably different place. Each dean, each group has transformed the place. The number of faculty that we've added in the last 10 years is just extraordinary. And I want to personally thank Harry for being an inspirational dean for all of us and an excellent role model for me. So thanks, Harry. Okay. Now remember, you have to be quiet. 12 more minutes. We're celebrating, not of me, that's mostly the other two. So, ILR is celebrating its 70th year, but we're just getting started. I'm going to be sharing more about my own ideas and those of the faculty and staff in the coming months ahead. But one thing I'd like to also recognize is our talented next generation of ILR alumni. We have a bunch of students here. So can the students who came down today or who are in New York this semester just raise their hands so everyone knows who you are? Okay, so now to the business at hand. We're going to recognize two very distinguished alumni. I should say that these two were picked before I became dean 2 months ago. I've only been dean for 2 months. So I can't take any credit for these exceptional choices, but I'm very proud and delighted to be up on the stage with them. First, I'm going to present the William B. Groat Award to Sara Horowitz. So here, Sara, come on up. This award is given to an alum or friend of the school whose work and contributions align with the vision and professional accomplishments of Judge Groat, a former New York State Supreme Court judge who played a key role in founding the school. So I'm going to say just a couple things about Sara. She's a visionary and a leader. She graduated from ILR in 1984 and describes Professors Nick Salvatore, who's here, and Cleet Daniel as being captivating instructors who influenced her greatly. She's a union organizer, labor lawyer, and founder and executive director of the Freelancers Union. With more than 250,000 members, the Freelancers Union is building a new form of unionism through creative, cooperative, market-based solutions to today's social challenges. And some estimates suggest that 50 million Americans engage in some sort of supplemental temporary project or contract-based work sometime during the year. So Sara has undeniably focused on and bettered the world of work for an important and growing population of workers. She's a MacArthur Foundation Genius Fellow and Deputy Chair of the Federal Reserve in New York. She's been working for 2 decades to help a new workforce build solutions together. Sara said recently in a magazine article in ILR, quote, "It's got to be about humanity. We are all change agents. There's always going to be a way for workers to come together." Great words for someone who embodies the spirit of this award. The 2012 William B. Groat honoree is Sara Horowitz.
Let me put my glasses on so I can see everybody. So can the people in the back of the room hear me who are talking? So I'm going to desperately try to keep this to 5 to 7 minutes as I was commanded, but being a labor leader, you know, we tend to go on a little bit longer, so just please forgive. I want to start off with some very well-deserved thank yous, and then I'm going to go into a rousing and spirited defense of the American labor movement, so put your safety belts on. So really, I want to start by thanking the deans, Halleck and Katz, so much for this award, and for the ILR ecosystem of great and active alums, faculty, and students. I want to thank in particular, I don't know where you are, Hannon Kulko from Meyer Swazi. But Hannon is an amazing and wonderful board chair, a board member, and a major and singular reason for the success of the Freelancers Union. I'd like to thank Andrea Phillips and Trishula Chandaria for being fonts of wisdom and wonderful board members. For Dina Senna, who is the Chief of Staff at the Freelancers Union, who is the absolute rock of our institution. And I couldn't go on without mentioning a few key ILRs, from Susan, quote, Sue Penapento and Jim Kearns and Russell Hollander, who are, turns out, right about just about everything and are great sounding boards, to the great and wonderful Randy Weingarten, who is the president of the AFT, and Jessica Smith and the people from the AFT who are here. Want to thank, you know, it's always not fashionable to really like insurance companies, but I have to say that Empire Insurance Company has been a great partner, particularly Brian Griffin, Tom Canty, Amadou, and our other friends there. And then to thank the great friends at Guardian, which is a mutual insurance company, who have done more, the two companies, to really promote the interests of independent workers, and that means taking risks, and that they did. Finally, I would like to thank my husband, who will be terribly embarrassed by this, Peter De Chiara, who is a partner at Cohen, Weiss & Simon. We've been married for 26 years, and I have to say that I am continually impressed by his integrity, his smarts, and that he's actually still pretty funny after all these years. And to our wonderful daughter, Rachel Horowitz, who is 15 years old and happens, I kid you not, to be born on Sam Gomper's birthday. I also would like to congratulate Beth, and I'm very eager to hear your talk, and again to Amalgamated Bank, and they're a great labor institution, and we will get to them in a moment. So now is the great rousing speech. Ready? Okay. My mother was a teacher, so you know it means that you have to all be quiet, as the dean has asked. And I say that lovingly, and a memory to my mother, thank you I had a really wonderful mother who was a great role model for being a strong woman who was a great trade unionist. So I think what is so important for us to recognize here at the ILR School is that we're really in an era of disruption. We're in an era of disruption and rebuilding where we see how technology platforms are really transforming virtually every industry, from finance to healthcare to publishing media. And there's nothing that's been more affected probably than work and workers. 53 million Americans now work independently, and Alan Kruger is here, and he might disagree with that number just slightly, Alan, but I know that you, because you just told me, you agree with that basic concept. So, and you know, he's a great alum, so like, Alan Kruger. But really what's significant is that 40% or so are independent contractors, and 27% are what we call moonlighters. And that means that people are piecing together their jobs now. They might work full-time and are freelancing on the side. They may be working for Airbnb, Uber. But what's so significant is that this work, it's so episodic, but as a society, what we're doing is we're shifting the risk and the cost to workers for these changes. And so understandably, there are so many people who care about work and workers that the temptation is to say, let's just turn this back. Let's say, no, thank you, it's not going to work for us. Let's call this the precariat and just fight it. And it's totally understandable because we still do have laws that protect the most vulnerable and low-wage workers, and we have to protect those laws and the things that are still working. And upon that strategy, we have to start to build a response. We have to start to say, what are the things that are going to accept this new flexibility, but are going to be able to work in this new way? And in many ways, it's like the agrarian society of the 1800s, before the Industrial Revolution. And in that agrarian society, people had family farms. It, in many ways, was a better way to work. But the truth was the Industrial Revolution won out, and we had to then come up with craft unions and other kinds of strategies. And that has been the work of the Freelancers Union, and what I've been doing for the last 20 years is to say, let's build a new third wave union. And I'm proud to say that we have now nearly 300,000 members. We have over 2 million people who come to our blog. We have member leaders in 17 cities beginning to organize. And we have benefits, health, retirement, disability, Empire, Guardian, et cetera, et cetera. And really what we're doing is we're starting to see what the future is going to look like. And so when I've reflected on this great and wonderful Groat Award, I've really tried to think about what are the biggest influences, and I really have thought about three. The first one, of course, is my family. My grandfather was the vice president of the International Ladies Garment Workers Union. Whoever did that first woo, thank you. My father was a union side lawyer with the Vladeck firm. Anybody from the Vladeck firm? Yay. In fact, just as a little inside story, my father went to law school with Steve Vladeck, and true, I don't make this up, he was the first lawyer that was fired from the Vladeck firm as well. My mother was a teacher, New York City public school teacher, proud union member. My husband is a labor lawyer, and as I said, my daughter was at Sam Gomper's birthday thing there. And really, I think that foundation of growing up, I think often about being an insomniac with my father, who was born in 1918 and had me a bit late, and really listening to the labor stories and going to my grandmother's house, who lived in union housing. But if family was the first, the second one was without a doubt the ILR School. Learning about craft unions, industrial unions, unions that had open membership like the Knights of Labor and the Wobblies, utopian communities. But also, I remember distinctly being 19 years old and taking a class called Trade Union Administration. And I loathed that class. And I remember saying, I'm 19 years old. I should be taking more interesting classes than that. Ooh, another school teacher. Those people got shushed in the back there. But you know what I realized is that at 19, there were these classes that I just found difficult, but I learned so much. But the classes that really stayed with me, I have to say my favorite class was with the late Professor Cleet Daniel, who taught 100 and Labor History 100 and 101. And I loved that class so much and loved him that when I had to take the second part of the class, it turned out it completely conflicted with another class that I absolutely had to take to graduation. So I worked out this deal with Professor Daniel that I could go to his class with a tape recorder, leave it there, run to my other class, come back, pick up the tape recorder, transcribe the class, and I actually don't remember ever getting permission from the administration to do that. But somehow I managed to graduate nonetheless. But also from Nick Salvatore, Professor Salvatore, and from Risa Leibowitz, I also started to really develop my love of role models, like Eugene V. Debs, Sidney Hillman, and Samuel Gompers. Samuel Gompers, we have to admit as we look at his life that at the end, there were times he was an anti-immigrant and he was racist. But sometimes what we do is we stop looking at the other things that he said. And from that, I learned so much about how to build the elements of trade unionism. So if the first was family and the second was the ILR School, the third was something actually from Sidney Hillman that I learned, which is his daughter, by the way, is still alive, I believe, Phil Freed. And when I started Freelancers Union, I called her up and I said, how could he have known how to organize? What could he possibly have done? And she said, he solved workers' problems. And so the thing I learned is that you have to deeply listen to workers. You have to deeply listen to what people are saying for the specific things that they need, but to really hear and try, almost using design theory, quick iteration, to start to build what are going to be the new kinds of solutions. So after 20 years of building Freelancers Union, forgive this really trite phrase, but the thing I've really learned is that labor is a journey and not a destination. Labor, in fact, as many of us who were reading Passover Seder, if Moses was the first union organizer leading the workers on their strike from Egypt, labor unions have been building and growing ever since then. And so really, what are unions then? Unions are really, in essence, a bold idea. Unions are a bold idea and a dream. And they're a dream that's rooted and inherent in our democracy. Labor rises and labor falls, and labor rises and falls again. But we can see all around us that there are signs of labor and that there is a third wave union movement here. I look at the $15 an hour campaigns, the minimum wage campaigns across the country, Randy Weingarten, the AFT, and other unions successfully organizing adjunct workers, the great labor leader Ai-jen Poo organizing domestic workers, Beta V. Desai organizing taxi cab workers, and finally sitting on the executive board of the AFL-CIO. My favorite quote of all time is that the future is here, it's just not evenly distributed. But you know what? It's getting more evenly distributed every day. So I thank you so much for this honor, and I thank you for the people in the back for being quiet, and really to the ILR School, thank you for everything, and the Groat Award and Alpern Award. Thank you.
Okay, you did okay with the. So I might have to, though, sick former Dean David Lipsky on you if the talking continues. We have a former chair of the Board of Trustees here, also Harold Tanner. I'll send him back. So we're almost done. We have another a great awardee. The Jerome Alpern Award is given to recognize exceptional professional accomplishments and for outstanding service and support to the ILR School. This year's winner is Beth Florin. So Beth, come on up. Beth received her Master's of Science degree from ILR in 1985. It credits her experience at ILR and faculty members George Milkovich, John Boudreau, and others for inspiring her. She said early on at ILR she realized that compensation was the field for her. You're also obsessed with compensation? That's great. She's currently managing director at Pearl Meyer & Partners, a leading compensation consulting firm where she leads the survey and employee compensation practice areas and serves on the firm's executive committee. She's an entrepreneur and was co-founder of Executive Alliance, a technology industry compensation consultancy acquired by Pearl Meyer & Partners, was a senior human resource consultant with William Mercer Incorporated's high-tech compensation practice, and held human resource positions at Data General. Her engagement with ILR and Cornell includes serving as a member of the ILR Advisory Council and Cornell University Council. She serves as vice president of the ILR Alumni Association and has been a major supporter of our Institute for Compensation Studies. Beth said in a recent article about her service, quote, "I want to keep contributing to ILR's excellence. I'm saying thank you," end quote. I want to say thank you to my friend Beth for all she has done for ILR. The 2015 Jerome Alpern Award winner is Beth Florin.
Thanks, Kevin. Tonight I want to share with you why Cornell is so close to my heart. December 28th, 2007 started full of promise. It was a couple of days after Christmas. My kids were busy playing with their new toys. My husband and I were getting ready to head down to the Cape for a week's vacation to celebrate New Year's. We'd given Joe a bunch of new gadgets for Christmas. He and I had spent the morning together in his office, organizing, cleaning, setting up his new iPhone and his new computer. He loved gadgets. As I left him to play with his new toys, he gave me a hug, and he said, "Thanks for such a great Christmas." 10 minutes later, I'm walking down the hallway, and I pass by his office, and I look in the door, and I see him sitting at his desk with his hands and his head on the table. And I think he's sleeping. So I walk into his office and I shake his shoulder and I call his name out, and he doesn't respond. And I realize he's not breathing and his eyes are glassy. And the rest of the day is a blur. We call 911 and start CPR. The paramedics show up in just a couple of minutes, and I watch them as they work on him, but they're not able to get a normal heartbeat. They put him on a stretcher, and as we are going out to the ambulance, they say to me, "You might want to say something to your husband." So I lean down and I whisper, "Don't leave me." I wish I had thought at that moment of something wonderful to say, something that better captured all the love and laughter that he and I had shared over the years, because those were his last moments on earth. That day I lost my husband, and my kids lost a father. Going home from the hospital to tell my kids that their dad died was definitely the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. My son Alex, threw himself on the ground and started sobbing. Somehow he knew already how much we had lost. My daughter Zoe is a little bit different though, and she's my practical one. And she looked up at me in all earnest and said, "Do we get a new one?" And now, 7 years later, the kids are well adjusted, but the answer is no, we do not get a new one. Joe was irreplaceable. In the days and weeks and months after my husband's death, this community, this ILR community, came together to support me and my family and to also help us start to heal. And that's what I want to talk to you about tonight. Soon after Joe's death, Cornell really worked closely with me to help establish a legacy that was going to remember Joe and also honor his professional commitment to the field of compensation. In 2010, I was very proud to establish the Joseph R. Rich Professorship. Professor George Milkovich's compensation class is really what started our interest and excitement in the field of compensation and resulted in us making that our career and our passion. I can vividly remember sitting in George's compensation class early one semester. He had asked us a question about the articles that we had been assigned to read, and I was very excited. I raised my hand because I knew the answer, and I recited back all kinds of facts and figures about what I had read, and George nodded and listened to me, and then he said, "So what?" And I was taken aback, but his point of thinking deeper about what I learned and what I'd read and how do I want to interpret it was a lesson that carried me through my career. And I'm known at work to ask that very same question of the people who work for me. A key reason for establishing this professorship was to make sure that compensation remains an important part of the ILR curriculum. And I am especially happy that our very good friend Kevin Halleck is the first holder of this professorship. Kevin? In the months after my husband died, I felt very untethered and adrift. And Cornell was an important part of helping to remind me that there is still purpose to my life. Not long after he died, I had the opportunity to take over the membership committee for the ILR Alumni Association. It gave me an opportunity to work with a really great group of people who shared the same passion for Cornell that I have. We worked together to come up with a bunch of ideas to turn around declining membership. And as I look back at that time, it really provided me with a much-needed distraction. We had a really great success, and it provided me with a reminder and a feeling of pride and purpose that I really was able to contribute to the group and to the school. But most of all, this community in this room offers friendship. The outpouring of love and concern, help and caring after my husband died buoyed me up at a time when I was really at risk of drowning, and I will never, ever forget. I still have all the cards and notes that people sent me, and you really can't imagine how much they meant to me. They were handwritten and simple, and they really carried me through some very dark times. One in particular has always remained beautifully clear in my memory, and it says, "I have my shoulder under your heart, and I'm pushing as hard as I can." So when I say that I can never repay all that Cornell has done for me, I mean that with all my heart. I accept this award not because I feel that I deserve it, but to be honored by such dear friends is really kindness indeed. I accept this award in Joe's memory and with deep gratitude for all that Cornell has meant and continues to mean in our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Sarah. I'd like to offer my personal congratulations to both. Your commitment to professional excellence, your leadership, and your dedication to ILR make us all very proud. So the bars are open. Please enjoy the food, drinks, and desserts and catching up. We hope to see you back at reunion or homecoming. And thanks, everyone, and have a great night.
This has been a production of the ILR School at Cornell University.